want to say thank you to Cochrane Supply for inviting Schneider Electric to be a part of the Cochrane Smart Building Seminar Series. Also, thank you for taking the time to look at the video. This presentation is going to focus on the Schneider Electric Viconics Technologies 8250 series room controllers. Schneider Electric is the parent company of Viconics Technologies. 50 series controllers are so much more than a thermostat for VAV, variable air volume, and VVT, variable volume and temperature, zone control. We refer to them as room controllers. For the next 30 minutes, we will explore what these controllers can do, how the 8250 series are the smart choice for lower cost installations when compared to traditional DDC controllers, why they're a great choice for smart buildings, why they have a great look on the wall, and finally the flexibility to meet non-standard applications. Essentially, the 8250 series of controllers are a DDC controller on the wall with a color touchscreen interface. So much more than a thermostat. These series controllers are used to control single duct VAV and VVT boxes. Any package zone control, damper, an airflow ring or sensor, in the case of a VAV box, preheat, duct, baseboard, or both, and possibly a series or parallel fan. The 8250 can be configured to operate modulating, which are 0 to 10 volt DC, or floating damper actuators. They can also be configured to operate duct and baseboard heat. That can be either hot water or electric. The signal to engage that heat can be modulating, on-off, floating, or pulse width modulation. They also have the capability to operate series or parallel fans with either an on-off or ECM fan motor. On board, the controllers have temperature and humidity sensors. There's an option for an onboard occupancy sensor as well. The controller itself has 7 inputs in addition to the onboard sensors for hardwired sensors like supply temperature or changeover sensor or remote space temperature sensor, as well as the option for communicating to battery-powered wireless sensors for temperature, humidity, CO2, occupancy, door and window switches. If you're using these controllers for VAV box control, it has an input for a pressure transducer of your choice to connect to the VAV box flow ring. Each controller has an onboard time clock and schedule. They are powered with 24 volts AC. 8250 series controllers are typically found on VAV boxes and VVT zone dampers in buildings ranging from hospitality to education to healthcare and commercial facilities, basically anywhere VAV or VVT boxes are installed. 8250 series room controllers are configurable devices. They have an embedded sequence of operations that are tailored for VAV and VVT control applications. Configuring the device is done through the touchscreen interface, so there's no software required, there's no licensing fees, and there's no downloading required. It's ready to use out of the box. Accessing the configuration pages is done by pressing the top portion of the touchscreen. This will take the user to 2 pages of setup that includes configuring the operation of the device, network settings if connected to a network, configuring the set points, configuring the display, setting the time clock and schedule, associating the wireless sensors, as well as commissioning operations. The 8250 series controllers can save you money when compared to traditional DDC. As I mentioned, there's no software or licensing required. One device is mounted on the wall as compared to installing a controller in the control enclosure and mounting a separate temperature sensing device on the wall, or multiple if you need humidity, CO2, or occupancy sensing. The configuration is done through the touchscreen interface, so engineering doesn't have to create a program that has to be downloaded to the controller. No computer is required. Configuration is simple and straightforward, so technicians or electricians of all skill levels can configure and install the room controller. In the end, saving time and skill adds up to a lower total installed cost. Here's a look at all the options that are available on the 8250 series room controller out of the box. Notice this controller has 7 inputs and 9 outputs that are used based upon the way in which the installer configures the room controller. Inputs can be configured for operations like window and door switches, dirty filter, or general service notifications. Changeover sensor, either a contact closure or resistive temperature sensor, can be connected for VVT zone control applications. A remote space temperature sensor can be connected, and supply air sensor can be added for monitoring purposes. There's also an input for a pressure transducer for VAV applications that use a flow ring. The 8250 can be configured to operate a series or parallel fan with on-off or ECM motors. If you've got reheat, either baseboard or duct heat, hot water or electric, the 8250 offers several options. With a VAV or VVT install, there's going to be a damper motor, so pick one of your choice, either modulating with a VDC output or floating contacts. Just to reiterate, one part number has all of this configuration flexibility. It's not like there's a part number for a VAV, a different part number for VVT. One part number can be configured for any of the above outputs mix. The test outputs and service view screens are great ways to verify the installation is performed correctly. Service view provides values of the attached sensors, the outputs from the heating and cooling proportional integral loops, if there's any alarms, like an open window, dirty filter, or general service. Basically, a way to view what's going on inside the controller without the use of a computer or commissioning software. Test outputs will verify wiring and operation for the dampers, fan, and reheat, kind of like a handoff auto switch. Electricians and technicians can use this to verify correct wiring to the outputs has been performed. There's no need to fake out the controller by changing set points to force heating or cooling operations to begin. After a 2-minute timeout or navigating to other 8250 screens will set the unit back to the proper outputs. You don't have to worry about leaving any setting in override. Knowing that the unit is functioning correctly provides confidence that you won't have to revisit the unit to make wiring corrections. What about the balancer? Software to run on a computer, there's no balancing software. Settings and configuration are performed through the touchscreen. There's no need to bring out a ladder, remove ceiling tiles, or worry about special devices or cables to connect to the controller. Moreover, if your installation is suited to wireless communications, the controller is located on the wall, not above the ceiling level, so there's a significantly reduced chance of the wireless communication signal being interfered with by I-beams, ductwork, or equipment installed above the ceiling. Communication options available, the 8250 room controllers are a great choice for all the smart building construction and retrofitting going on these days. Onboard time clock and schedule. Room controller has BACnet MSTP communications. Devices are BACnet testing labs tested and listed. There's around 500 points or so in each controller that can be read or written to by virtually every BACnet supervisory system on the market. These 8250 series room controllers also have the capability to communicate via Modbus RTU. So if you run across an existing installation that's got a Modbus network, there's no need to run a new trunk for BACnet. Just toggle the communications on the controller to Modbus and add it to the network. The controllers also support the addition of Wi-Fi communications card. The room controller to connect to a Wi-Fi network router can be used in standalone applications or connected to a building management system. In a standalone application, the 8250 can be configured to notify or alert the appropriate parties via email of malfunctions like temperature, humidity, or CO2 values that are out of range, or if there's been a fault or a dirty filter alarm. BMS or supervisory device is not required, essentially letting you know of a problem so you can react and perform the necessary maintenance. In larger installations, Wi-Fi can be used to speak BACnet IP to a building management supervisory device. The benefits of this style of installation is that quite often there's existing Wi-Fi routers in place that can be used. Also, the communication between the room controllers and supervisory device is much faster than BACnet MSTP. So all of today's analysis and analytics programs can act and react in a rapid manner. Wi-Fi communications allows for network installation in a building that's not suited to traditional daisy chain hardwired network installation. Installations are well suited to locations where the cost of wiring is expensive or where the facility may undergo renovation changes periodically. If they change configuration, there's no need to reroute the communication bus. Additionally, they're great for retrofit situations where the owners would like to have a network, but the construction is not suited to fishing communications wire. Think of locations that are architecturally important, like museums or historical sites, locations that may have asbestos in the walls, or locations that cannot endure extensive downtime, like hotels that can't rent their rooms if there's work being done. These are another aspect of the 8250 room controllers that make them a great choice for smart buildings. Thermostats typically use on-off strategy, on the right side of the screen. When the space temperature rises above or drops below the set point, the heating or cooling comes on and does not turn off until reaching the set point. The result is overshoot, where the space is overheated or overcooled, leading to wasted energy, not to mention uncomfortable occupants and more wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. The 8250 room controllers employ a proportional integral or PI control loop. This means that over time, the loop will tune to the space requirements, keeping the space temperatures closer to set point, reducing that overshoot. This translates into more comfortable occupants, higher efficiency, less energy usage, and less wear and tear on the mechanical equipment. Employing the use of additional sensors can also help to save energy. As we saw in previous slides, sensors can be hardwired, but the 8250 room controllers can support up to 10 wireless sensors. Temperature and humidity sensors for remote sensing, averaging, high-low signal select, remote door or window contacts. If the window is open, disable the heating and cooling functions until the window is closed. Water leak detectors and occupancy sensors. The sensors can have up to 10 years of battery life and use standard off-the-shelf batteries. Wired, embedded, or remote wireless occupancy sensors, or using multiple sensors to measure from different locations, has shown to reduce energy costs from 10 to 30%. They're all passive infrared or PIR sensors. They detect motion as well as heat. 50 room controllers have 3 set points: occupied, standby, and occupied. When the controllers sense motion, they control to the occupied set points. No motion is detected for a user-defined period of time. The room controllers will change from occupied set points to standby set points and begin another timer. If no motion is detected for that user-defined period of time, the room controllers will change from standby set points to unoccupied set points. If at any time motion is detected, the controller will revert to controlling to occupied set points once again. There's no need to condition a space to occupied set points when there's no occupancy. Standby allows for that drift from the occupied set points, so the equipment will not have to make up as large of a temperature delta once the occupants are in the space. Again, the standby and unoccupied timer periods are user-defined and adjustable from half hour to 24 hours. Functionality and flexibility built into the 8250 series room controllers, yet that this controller is what the user sees in the space. Room controllers look great on the wall. There's 2 brands, the Schneider Electric version and the Viconics version. The Schneider Electric version, which begins with the letters SEZ 8250, comes with a white case and white fascia, or silver case and silver fascia. Alternate fascias are available to fit in a multitude of installations where the aesthetics have to be perfect. There's versions of wood grain, glossy, and even aluminum. The Viconics version, which begins with the letters VZ 8250, only comes in a unified white fascia, and case combination. With either model, multiple background colors can be selected. Again, background color can be selected from the touchscreen configuration pages, and there's even a backnet point that can be commanded from a supervisory system. Configurable as well. Display shows temperature and set point adjust. The heat symbol for heating mode, a snowflake for cooling mode. Fan operation is displayed by the fan symbol. You can choose to display the time and date, which buttons appear on the bottom of the screen for operation, mode button for off auto, degrees C degrees F button, language button, unoccupied override button, and help button. Many times buttons are removed to limit the control occupants have over the operation of the equipment. You can also choose to display outdoor temperature, humidity, or CO2 level. 8250 supports short and long backnet messages. The short message, here displayed as room 1705, supports up to a 33-character message that can be anything from welcome message, which piece of equipment the room controller is connected to, like VAV 237, or even an active value. Maybe you want to display the supply air temperature. This is also the area where alerts are displayed, like window open, dirty filter, or service alarm. Long backnet messages take over the entire screen. It's typically used for messages letting the occupant know of an event happening in the facility, like a meet and greet happy hour at a hospitality installation, to a warning, as in shelter in place message for educational or commercial installations. 8250 Room Controller also supports loading a standby or screensaver image. It can be any bitmap image. You can choose to display this image when the screen has not been touched for 2.5 minutes. This image can be anything from a school mascot to display school pride, to an image of the building surrounding city, to an image that helps the controller to blend in more successfully with the wall on which it is installed. These room controllers also support 20 different languages. In today's global economy, people from all over the planet, vacationing and working throughout the US, may require this functionality. Access to the configuration screens or to any of the buttons on the touchscreen are password protected, so access can be denied to those who have an inquisitive nature. Of these room controllers that I would like to touch on is for those of you that have installations that require more functionality than what is built into the standard configuration and sequence of operation. The built-in operations of the 8250 controller will meet any single duct VAV or VVT type of installation. There's always an installation or engineer who wants to do more. These controllers are capable of more because if you need to, they can be programmed to build upon the standard sequence or change the styles of inputs and outputs. As I mentioned earlier, these controllers have 7 inputs and 9 outputs that get used up as you configure the device. The 7 inputs are universal, meaning they can be temperature inputs, binary inputs, or active 0 to 10 volt inputs. Of the 9 outputs, 5 are binary, but 4 of them are universal. They can be on-off or modulating 0 to 10 volt DC. With programming, you can change a binary input to a temperature input or a modulating input. You can change a binary output to a modulating one. You can add a stage of heating or add a fan proving switch. You can average multiple sensors to control a larger space. You could incorporate an input from a card reader in a hospitality installation. You could create a custom button on the display so when the user pushes it, special functions occur. We've got a library of over 2,000 programs that are modifications we've worked on over the last couple years. So please ask your Cochrane representative if you're looking for functionality above and beyond what comes out of the box. The actual programming language is called Lua. It's a free programming language, and you can visit lua.org to learn more. So if you want to write your own programs, that's up to you. Software to write and view the programs is just a text editor, Notepad++, which is free on the internet. Finally, the software tool to connect to the room controller is to download a program, upgrade or change firmware, load a custom standby image, or configure multiple controllers in the same way. You can configure one unit, save that configuration, then plug into the next unit, press restore, and it will configure that controller exactly like the previous one. That software is called Uploader 8000 and it's free on our website. All you need is a USB to micro USB cable, which is available at any electronics outlet. Look at the models that are available. Come with a temperature and humidity sensor, and built-in occupancy sensor, temperature and humidity sensor, built-in occupancy sensor, and built-in Zigbee communications. So add-on accessories for a CO2 sensor, Zigbee communications to communicate with the wireless sensors, and Wi-Fi communications. Installation, configuration, commissioning, documentation, and supporting collateral is available on our Schneider Electric or Viconics websites. along with the Cochrane staff, are ready to assist with any questions you may have about any Schneider or Viconics product. 8250 series controllers are so much more than a thermostat. They're a smart choice for today's smart buildings. They offer a lower total installed cost, they look great on the wall, and they have the communication and operations flexibility to meet today's equipment and engineering requirements. Thank you for your time.